Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Chantelle. Today I'm going to be showing you the 4 ways that I like to paint snow using watercolour and gouache. I'm then going to be taking those 4 techniques and creating an original painting, which is now listed up on my website, which is really exciting. It's perfect as winter is now coming up, so I hope you enjoy this one. The first technique is very simple. I'm just going to be wetting the paper with water, and then I'm going to be using the wet on wet method. Generally for snow, it's like a blue mixed with a brown. That's generally what I do. And the best way to do it is to not really add very much paint at all. Snow is white, and the lighter you can get it, the better it will be. You just need to add blue where the shadows will be. This is honestly really quite difficult, and you can very easily overwork it. So the best thing to do is to just pop the paint down, not pop very much down at all. I'm adding some yellow for the highlights because often snow really does shine quite yellow, and that's this method all done. We're just going to let it dry. For the second technique, we're going to grab an oil pastel and just add the snow using a white oil pastel. The oil pastel definitely needs to be white, and I'm adding quite a little bit here, but I don't feel like I chose a reference photo that really does this method justice. The reference photo didn't have very much snow in it, and I feel like this method definitely works if you have a photo that absolutely is covered with snow. So the oil pastel works as a resist, so when you add watercolour on top, as you can see, the oil pastel just shines through and the paint just kind of sits on top of it rather than actually going into the paper. This can be a really good method if you have a good reference photo in mind, if you have something that is pretty much covered in snow, but unfortunately for the reference photo I chose, I don't think it worked amazingly, but you can still see where it comes through. For the third method, I am just very quickly adding a fence in watercolour, and then I'll show you how I use gouache on top. For this method, honestly, this is probably the most versatile one. You can use it on a fence like I am, you can use it on the ground, you can use it for lots of stuff. You want to look at the brushes you own and choose the hardest bristle brush, and that's the one that I'm choosing. It's really difficult to not soften it when I clean it, but this is a really hard brush, and that means when I dip it in the white gouache, I'm able to just drop it on top and it separates. As you can see, if I was using a soft brush, it just wouldn't have this kind of separation. It would probably be a little bit lumpy. Moving on to the fourth technique now. This one is my favourite, it's very fun. So I'm going in with watercolour wet on wet, and this is supposed to be just kind of like a sky with trees. That's sort of what I was going for. Didn't base it on a reference or anything. So basically you just want to blur a ton of colours together, and I feel like it works best if you do it quite dark. If it's just really, really pastel blue, it might not work very well. And once you've just layered a load of pigment on and the paper is drying slightly, I'm going to be splattering some white gouache on it as the paper is still slightly wet. This one is so fun, and honestly I really love the effect that it gives. It can be very difficult to control. When I added a bit more water to the brush, a big dollop fell out, you can just see it there, but that did make it splash better, so it's still fixable in this method and it turns out very pretty. Next, I'm just peeling off all of the tape. I always use a hairdryer, that is my go-to, that's what I do every time. Even if it's washi tape, I will use a hairdryer on every single one, and there wasn't any peel, so it definitely works. I 100% recommend it. These are the 4 techniques that I use when it comes to painting snow. They are very different and they're all done with just one layer. They all have their place. The first I generally use for snow on the ground, the second for branches, the third for anything that's kind of resting on an object, and the fourth for just falling snow really. And now we're moving on to the original painting. I'm going to be using all 4 techniques if you spot them as I go along. I've just picked out some tubes that I'm going to be using, so I picked out cerulean blue, indigo, moon glow, Van Dyke brown, and quinacridone gold. Those are the shades that I'm going to be using to create this original piece. I couldn't find an amazing reference photo because honestly I do not have many pictures of snow, but this is the one that I've chosen. I took this photo about 2 years ago, which was the last time that there was snow. I generally go outside and take loads of photos, but honestly it's like 1 or 2 days a year, if that. See if you can spot all of the 4 techniques that I used to create this piece. I'm going to leave you with some music now to enjoy the rest of this painting process. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you lasted until the end. Thank you very much. I see you and I appreciate all of the support. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. I haven't painted a landscape in about a year, so I'm very happy with how this one turned out. This is now listed up on my website if you are interested. I would love if you could subscribe so you don't miss my next video, and I will see you another time. Bye bye.